welcome to Broadish. I am Felicia Madison, along with my co-host Hollie Harper and Jocelyn Chia. And our guest co-host today is Drexton Clemons.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us. So we're going to get started in true Broadish fashion with our first topic, Ikea Fried Chicken. Ikea thought they were doing something great for the Juneteenth, to celebrate Juneteenth, and they offered fried chicken and watermelon, and some people didn't find that funny.
It's just so stupid and tone deaf. Like, why don't you, if you want to celebrate Juneteenth, why don't you actually get some history on Juneteenth? Do you know what I mean? Like, why don't you actually find out what Juneteenth is and find a way to celebrate that? But like some fried chicken and that's like, we're going to have Black History Month and give you guys some fried chicken and watermelon. Like,
I think that they should have, instead of the fried chicken and watermelon, because that all costs money that they didn't need, given every Black employee the day off but paid, and then just have all the white staff come in and work IKEA. And that would have been 10 times better. Because the thing about it is, like, they made it a federal holiday, so everybody's like, oh, we all get a day off. I'm like, whoa, that's not how you do it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It should be a federal holiday for only Black people. And then we all get the day off, and then the best part about it is you can visit work if you want to. You can go and be like, wow, it looks really hard for y'all to be working over there, don't it? And then go home. That would be a way better day.
But then if you made the white folks work in the hot sun, that would be like if you were working inside, now you gotta work outside. But like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Either that or have white folks make fried chicken and judge it.
Did they issue an apology? Do you know?
I don't know. I just know that they were like, we didn't really know this would go south. But to me, it's just like, it was like when people are so tone deaf. When people are so tone deaf, they don't even know how tone deaf they are. Do you know what I mean? This reminds me of like when Tyler Perry, before he blew up making his movies back in 2004 or 5, he like had a deal with some movie studio, and they're like, we don't even know who you are. And they went to a cleaning lady, and that's a cleaning lady. Do you know who Tyler Perry is? She's like, oh, yeah, in my family, we say, oh, like they went to the cleaning lady. Like, why didn't they just Google him or go through his resume and look at the shows? Like, to go. So it just reminds me, it's just lazy. It's just such lazy thinking, like fried chicken and watermelon. Like, we're going to celebrate a beautiful Black holiday by going to a stereotype. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? In 2021, that's what you're going to do. So yeah, if I was Black and I worked for IKEA, which my friend, he was like, it's IKEA. I was like, all right, dude, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't celebrate any kind of, okay, like I'm not Peruvian. If I was celebrating a Peruvian holiday, I would do some research. I would actually ask around. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Yeah.
On top of that, I think any place that changes their menu for Juneteenth it's not going to go well. You know what I mean? There's just nothing. They could have just been like, it could have been collard greens, mashed potatoes, and just regular soul food, and they still would have been like, IKEA, what are you doing? Like, there's no way you can change. I don't want to go to Applebee's for like some ham bone collard greens. I do not want to do it. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to Chili's for like a watermelon margarita. I'm not going to do it on Juneteenth. I just don't need you changing your menu for me, you know?
Everybody has that to do everything.
What is wrong with adding something on a menu to celebrate a particular day? Like if it's Chinese New Year and Applebee's suddenly had dumplings as their special of the day, I'll be like, oh, that's cute. It's a nod to my culture. Why would you be upset or like offended or not even impressed at the very least that someone had a nod to your culture on a day that's celebrating your people, I guess?
Because we always celebrate these people through food without giving them actual rights or, you know what I mean? It's always like food. And I just kind of feel like if you really want to celebrate then freedom, it's not through food. It's not through the dumplings. It's not through the fried chicken and water. Like, if that was totally unnecessary, to be quite honest with you. Fried chicken and watermelon, like, really? It just shows how little you even know about Black people. Like, you just really displayed your ignorance and just know, like, wow, y'all really have a problem if you're celebrating with fried chicken and watermelon. Now, as far as for Asians, for our holidays, that's not for me to judge. I would be like a little like, that's kind of messed up, but I would leave it to actual Asians of whether or not they like it or not. You know what I mean? Like, I have to check with you. I'd be like, or other Asians, like, how do you feel about it? Because I don't know. I'd be like, what the fuck with the dumplings? But that's up to y'all.
I think also IKEA notoriously has bland food. I don't want a bland version of food that you think that I'm gonna like. I don't want the blandest fried chicken and the driest watermelon. Like I don't want that either.
That's true. If you mess up fried chicken, people don't love you anymore. Because people see fried chicken and they get happy. And if they bite in and it's wood, they're very unhappy.
Very unhappy. And
very
also
unhappy.
Like, there is a history of when places do have racial snafus, their food does get better. I don't know if you like remember when Papa John's, the whole thing with Papa John's. I don't know if you've had Papa John's recently. It is well seasoned. It is just crispy enough. I don't know what changed, but
Papa John's wings are like really incredible.
That's what I'm saying.
But I still don't mess with them because of that. All the crap he said. I still don't mess with them.
What I'm saying is the wings got even better after the thing. I don't know how.
Well, you better get better after you offend like millions of people. Your food is going to have to be amazing.
Exactly.
It's going to have to be incredible.
Well, on the same sort of note, going back to what we're talking about, the Minneapolis police are suing the police precinct, some of the police officers, for the same reason that happened at IKEA. Someone was off. One of the reasons was someone kept offering them like fried chicken and watermelon, and amongst a lot of other horrible things that happen. But obviously, there's a connect somehow. People like associate that, and I don't know why.
It's just called racism. Like, it's just being racist. So people use, I'm kidding, I'm joking. They always use it as a crux to be racist. Do you know what I mean? People do it to every group that's been oppressed. They've used some kind of thing just to say it's a joke. Because it's a joke. And it's just a way to be racist. Offering fried chicken and watermelon to, these are people you're supposed to lay down your life with. Like you cover each other's lives with, you know what I mean? Like I had 2 uncles that were police officers. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't think that police are inherently wrong. I think the way the police department is set up is inherently wrong. I don't think them as individuals inherently wrong. So my 2 uncles were laying down their lives every day for their brothers on the force. So it's like, can you imagine? This is how they feel about you, but I'm going to rush into a building with you?
Right. Well, this will bring
How
us.
did the stereotype come about the fried chicken and watermelon?
Asking.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, through caricatures during Reconstruction, right after, like the 40 years after enslavement, Reconstruction in the South, there was a huge push towards demonizing Black people through postcards and posters and shows, and that's where blackface came through to ensure their second-class status in society. Everything from alligator bait postcards to postcards of actual lynchings to little children, Black children painted with big eyes with watermelon to make them seem like less than children. So that's where the stereotype comes from. It comes from a push to dehumanize Black people at a time when they were freed from enslavement, as to keep them down. That's where it comes from.
So
and why would they pick watermelon?
Don't like fried chicken and watermelon?
Huh?
So,
well, the white people ate fried chicken and watermelon too.
Yeah, I don't eat fried
chicken. You know what I mean? Like everybody
I like watermelon.
Everybody who was there in America at that time.
I love watermelon.
Everybody there ate fried chicken and watermelon. But to make so constantly when you see, I mean, you look at postcards, you can look at Jim Crow Museum on CBS Sunday morning. It's on YouTube. You know, there's like constant paraphernalia of Black people with watermelon, Black people with chicken. Meanwhile, everybody ate chicken. Everybody ate watermelon. But it was a way to dehumanize Black people through imagery.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it wasn't that Black people eat fried chicken and watermelon disproportionately more than white people. They just
no.
I think it was
the drawing, and I think it was easy to draw. I mean, it's so easy to draw watermelon. Chicken is very easy to draw. You know how hard it is to draw mac and cheese? It's very hard to draw mac and cheese. It's very hard to draw collard greens. You'd be like, what is that? You're like, it's collard greens. It's like, I don't see the vision.
I just watermelon, see cabbage. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Watermelon's easy to draw. Chicken is easy to draw. Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're all watermelon and fried chicken. And mind you, watermelon and fried chicken is both delicious and everyone eats it. It's not like a specific.
Watermelon's very healthy too.
Exactly.
I love it.
Now, I don't know.
Right now.
And the thing about it is, like, I don't know what's a culturally Black food. Like, there's a stereotypically Black food, which would be the fried chicken and watermelon. But a culturally Black food usually stems from soul food, which usually stems from Southern food, which is something that everybody in the South eats. So there's nothing like, because when slaves were just getting the scraps of what they were making for white people anyway, so everybody was eating the Southern food. But then all of a sudden they were just like, oh, fried chicken and watermelon, that's your thing. Not having seasoning and eating aioli, that's our thing. Like, it's just, I don't know what changed.
He said aioli.
Aioli. White people love aioli. White people love a seasoned mayonnaise. I don't know why it is, but that's their thing.
I do hot sauce mayonnaise.
Hey, hot sauce mayonnaise.
Hot sauce mayonnaise with a fried chicken sandwich.
Mayo ketchup.
We know
You know what
your
I mean?
hot sauce, Holly. We determined that on our first episode.
I never even had hot sauce until I was 30 years old.
Really?
Never. And now I'm like making up for it.
I
Okay.
ate hot sauce till I was 24.
Ooh.
Well, there you go. Look at your parents protecting your mouth.
You are
Yeah,
not enough. Okay, we're gonna move on, guys. Sort of related. I read an article Tom Friedman wrote in the New York Times this morning, saying defunding Trump. If you defund the police, you'll be funding Trump. And it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I sent it to you guys to read. The basic premise is, defunding the police, which is what is happening in places like Minneapolis now, and crime is increasing. And if crime starts to increase, people will validate Trump's opinion of what he should do, and the Republicans will come back. It was a very interesting article.
That just sounds very much like if you give a mouse a cookie. You know what I mean? Like, a bunch of farcical things will happen. Well,
there were facts behind it. Now, whether those facts that he stated are true or not, I don't know. I don't believe everything I read, unlike some people in this world. But crime has increased. That's
why? That's the big question.
They're saying because the police force is down, and a lot of people left the police force. This is specifically in Minneapolis, and I could quote you some things if you want that he wrote. But the feeling was, if crime increases, you're basically funding Trump, and Trump is fueling that fire.
Well, I think if you fall for the banana in the tailpipe, that crime is up because police are just down. Police are down, and they'll tell you, they even said it across the country. A lot of times they're like, well, if we can't govern police the way we want, then we're just not showing up for work, and we're just not going to protect you at all. You know what I mean? Crime is crime. Crime is not about one race or another. Crime is crime. So when cops if police are so willing to let the greater good of people suffer because they're not allowed to lean on people's necks, then we really do need to look at who we're hiring for the police force. We really need to look at like what dollars go into it. So, and that's another thing. People talk about defunding and the police quitting are two different things. Defunding is just looking at their budget and dismantling their budget and putting things back here or there. Police not even going to work, which happens a lot, or police people not, officers, people not joining the force. Those are two different things from defunding. So if people are not showing up for work, or people don't want to join the police force because they can't have qualified immunity and just do whatever they want, then fine. Then maybe this is the thing we need to go through. But I don't think it funds Trump. Funds Trump is racism funds Trump. A scaredy cat, pussified Republican Party is what funds Trump. Because people don't have the balls, enough people don't have the balls to stand up to this man. Yeah, that's what funds him.
I think there's several layers of it.
I think there's a point to the article. Yeah, go ahead, Drex.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When more people are outside, crime goes up. When there are less people outside, there's less crime. Yeah. That is visible. That is tangible, visible, and being reported. So the world is opening back up. The U.S. is opening back up. As is such, the crime rates will go up. Then the second layer here is that you do absolutely have police who feel like if they can't have absolute power, then they want none of it. So then you have that layer of it all as well. And then on top of that, when you are talking about defunding the police, I mean, even if you look at what New York City did, New York City cut $1 billion out of the police budget, but the police budget was $4.9 billion. So, which is more budget than any other infrastructure in the city. So even though you're cutting $1 billion off, there's still $4 billion going to the police. And even in New York City, 1,000 new cops were being trained every 3 months to be on the street. Now, when you were talking about defunding the police, I think a lot of people think that it means get rid of the police. There are no more police. The police are gone. And
that's not what it means.
It's not. It's reallocating some of the jobs to everywhere, because what happens is police are designed to fill a square peg, but problems come in circles and triangles and rectangles and things like that. But they're being forced to be dealt with a square peg. The issue then becomes, how do you make sure that every problem and every peg gets solved? And that is reallocating some of those funds to therapists, to housing, to hospitals, things like that. So that's another thing. And then when you look at defunding the police, you also have to look at restorative justice, which is what a lot of protesters are really pushing right now, which is putting somebody away for doing a crime isn't the way to stop crime or to rehabilitate a person, because then they come back on the street with no training after years, and then what do? They have nowhere to go, and then that leads them into more crime because they have no other options. Restorative justice is the notion that they look at the victim first and they go, what would this victim need to feel like justice was served? And sometimes it's an apology, sometimes it is work being done by the perpetrator and things like that, so that they can restore themselves and then accurately fall back into society.
And that's not something we have. So that's one of the reasons why you see a high crime rate. And I mean, to me, I see all you're saying, but to me, it just looks like if I can't have absolute power, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, because that's my job.
But the devil needs an advocate.
We know that.
Needs an advocate. I didn't know the devil needed an advocate.
Oh, he's playing Dhaya now.
She's playing Dhaya now.
No, I'm always Hollie Harper, honey.
If I was, listen, there's the term, there are bad police out there, and there are obviously bad people in every industry, every work of life, race, color, ethnic, socioeconomic, everything. I would never in a million years want to be a police officer, to put myself in the line of danger, to defend other people was just, I don't know, I'm not that good of a person. I'm just not. So I feel for them a little bit, and I feel that sometimes there are good police officers that make mistakes or are in a high stress situation that maybe they didn't do the right thing. And those people I feel sorry for. The people that like lean on someone's neck and are obviously doing bad stuff is a different story. So the question is, has it swung a little bit too far that a person can't even like pull his gun if he feels threatened? And maybe they're feeling like, listen, if I can't defend myself, if I feel threatened, then why would I put myself out there?
Well, I feel like you need to
I hear you. I don't think it's all about the extreme use of force that they want. I mean, there are a lot of good cops who are also feeling very demoralized because they're being villainized just because they are a cop, because now by association, people are
you know what? You will be villainized,
harassing them.
You will be harassed and you will be insulted. You will be demoralized when you completely protect and are ensconced and do nothing to fight against a system that has qualified immunity, which protects your every single decision. The qualified immunity is one thing that keeps cops shielded from any kind of judgment. Getting rid of that is a really important thing. Getting rid of a budget where you need like machine guns and tanks is a really good thing. And there are ways to police people without brutalizing them. If you are Black or brown and you're a teenager, especially if you're male and you're growing up in a major city, why should you be stopped and frisked 10 times more than a white kid who a lot of times has a more higher likelihood of having a bag of weed on him? Why should you be policed like that? Like, why should you be treated like that? And so I kind of feel like unless you live through that, you really don't even know how fucked up that is for Black youth, to put them in through a cycle of bullshit and criminalize kids before they even have a chance to even think about even being a criminal. I've told you guys time and time again, picking up my daughter and my kids from school at 3 and 4 in the afternoon, these past like 8 years has given me a whole education on how Black youth are treated on these streets, and it's bad. So when I see cops that are good. It's not about cops that are good or cops that are bad. I think that we have a system of police that protects cops beyond the measures of where they should be protected. And that system protects bad cops. It protects good cops, protects bad cops, and it attracts bad cops because they know they have a fail-safe where they will not be judged.
Well, we've discussed
that is the problem.
We discussed this last time when this was all happening. I guess it was over a year ago. And I think the general consensus, at least maybe you didn't agree, Holly, was that I didn't agree with the term defund the police. I always thought that was a bad term because it sends the message to people that you're taking money away, and it really should be reorganize the police.
But why wouldn't you just say
take away stuff like you're saying, like what you're saying, protecting them, that's bad.
But that's not even what defunding means. If people learn to bother see what defunding means, then you would know.
What does defund mean?
Defund the police
such a
means
bite-sized.
But we've discussed this. How do you ladies not know what this means? We've discussed this a million times. Defund the police means you dismantle the budget and you put it back together again, which best represents a community.
Defund means prevent from continuing to receive funds. That's the definition of it. So if you're going to put a word that
is not, but that's not the meaning of defund the police.
Well, you're twisting it. That's what.
But see, that's because you're choosing to believe this little right-wing way about it.
No,
you're just choosing to believe that.
No,
here I am, right in your face, and here I am telling you exactly what defund the police means. That's not what it means.
Well,
and you even start off.
No, but that's what the literal definition of defund means. That
Holly.
No, she's
but if you would bother to learn what they're talking about is defund the police. I'm not gonna
label it properly.
I know debate 2-on-1. Fine, we get up into it. That's not what it means.
Listen,
and we have discussed this a million times. No, Felicia, listen. Felicia, listen for a second. We have discussed this many times. Yes, you can sit there and look at what the Webster's Dictionary of defund means, but the actual term defund the police means we dismantle the budget and we put it back together to best represent the community.
And I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay, so then
you should have a different word.
I told you to listen. Sometimes you just don't listen, Holly.
But sometimes you don't either.
You didn't let me explain. You didn't.
Well, I don't let myself be cut across. No, I'm very good.
You're talking me on something that I 100% agree with you on.
Yes, but it's not about me not listening. I don't let people cut across me. So no, I'm guilty of that.
Defund the police means something. All I'm saying is the word defund has a definite meaning, and it's a difficult word. And when people hear it, they'll think of the real definition of it, and they won't. You're right. They won't read it and educate themselves and find out what it's about. But why make that so difficult? Why not restructure the police? Why would that not be a better word?
The language is more important. So the language is more important to people than the actual lives and Black bodies. The language is more important.
That's just the way.
To me, that's very telling about our thinking. That's very telling about our thinking that we're so offended by this word defund the police than the actual reality.
We're confused. People
but why would you be? But anybody that learns to find out, anybody who bothers to find out what the term defund the police means will not be confused.
The actual definition means to take money away. So I could see how people.
But there's no.
I'm not confused.
Okay, great. Because you bothered to find out.
Correct. But we're dealing with the United States of America that we've already kind of figured out the greatest people in the world.
A lot of people.
They elected Trump. They're not geniuses.
Yes, a lot of people that are racist and they elected Trump, so they hear defund the police, they're just going to think whatever they want to think. Right. These people will never be with us.
But these people will never be
with us.
Those are the people we need to change.
But then you know what? Then you go work on those people. But Black folk are tired of stepping around the soft ears of white people who get triggered by defund the police. It means take away money. Oh my God. Instead of just being like, what's defund the police? What exactly are they talking about?
That's racist because it's
wait a minute. Racist white people?
Yeah, it's not just white people that are having a problem with defund the police. There are more.
I see racist white people having a problem with defund the police.
There are a lot of people that are not white that have a problem with defund the police.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who don't want to protect Black people who have a problem with defund the police. There's a lot of people.
Well, now we're going into.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people of every race. There's a lot of people of every race that don't like Black people.
Okay, let's Drexton.
We could go all day on that. There's a lot of people of every race that don't like Black people.
Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
No, I love this. I love good discourse. That's what it's about. I mean, even think of it this way, right? When the marches were happening, I mean, think of the pressure cooker we were in that situation. A phrase came out which needed explanation at the time. And mind you, so many people did explain it at the time and say, okay, yeah, we picked the wrong wording for this, but what this means is this, right? But a lot of people latched onto the wording at the time and said, well, that's the thing that you guys are standing behind. And therefore, the way that I think of defunding the police and the way that you think of defunding the police may be two different things because you explain this later, but I'm going to go with my definition. And that's what happened. A lot of people were like, well, you're taking money away. And then you think to yourself, what does it mean to take money away? Right? Taking money away is a demilitarization of the police. The police were started to protect property, first and foremost. That's why lives have never really mattered to the system of policing. Now, I say this, the system, because my dad is a police officer, and I think my dad is a good person. I think my dad does a really good job as a police officer, but he is also within a corrupt system. So there are good apples within a corrupt system. There are good apples in bad patches, but if the patch is bad, it's still a bad patch. Right? And so the problem then becomes, what do you do with that patch? Do you believe in this patch and hope that it gets better, or do you reallocate some of these good apples to a different patch in order to have a good field? And that is what defunding the police is taking the good apples and keeping the good apples and expanding on the good rather than believing in a system that is inherently a bad patch.
That was a very good
How is
explanation.
defunding the police reallocating
Kind of what I
the
just
good
said,
apples?
but
When
yeah, very well put.
I thought they were going to take away some of the police budget and reallocate that budget to social services, etc. How are they expanding the good apple? Yeah, to therapists, etc.
Right. So
how is your point about them?
So what's happening is the police who, like, when you're defunding the police as well, you're also if you're changing policing systemically, you're getting rid of qualified immunity, which is going to get rid of some of the bad apples who have been able to skate away with abusing people and then getting away with it. You're you're also taking away the militarization of the police, so it doesn't become as easy to brutalize people. Because it's easy to brutalize people behind riot gear and tanks and the heat little raid thing that they had during the protest. But when you don't have that, you have to end up having conversations. You have to learn how to de-escalate. We were interviewing a police officer for our podcast, and they do about 2 weeks of gun training, and they do about 3 hours of de-escalation training. The way that police are taught is one of us is going to make it home, and it should be you. And so when they're taught wrong, you're creating a bad patch from the get-go. So rather than thinking of it like that, when they're thinking, hey, we're going in with a therapist because this is a mental health crisis, you should be the last thing that moves. So let's see how the therapists handle it. Let's see, like when someone's trying to jump off of a building, you don't point a whole bunch of guns at them and say, don't jump. You bring a guy, right, who goes, hey, please don't jump. You have a lot to live for. Here are your friends and family. They're on the phone. Let's talk to them. You start there because you're trying to de-escalate rather than escalate the tension. So by what I say, by breaking down the bad patch and keeping the good, you keep the good parts of what policing should be. And then you reallocate the other parts to better things than the bad patch, like therapists, like mental health workers, like hospitals and nurses and doctors and things like that.
Things built to represent your community.
Exactly.
Which isn't all this re-education of the police going to need money? So if you're defunding the police, then they're going to have less resources for this re-educational.
It's the same money. It's just reallocated.
Because if you're talking about 3 hours spent on de-escalation, now they're going to need more training on de-escalation, for example.
More training on de-escalation.
So you don't need that money for the tanks and the machine guns.
Right. So rather than spending all of the money teaching you how to use the tanks and machine guns, and also spending 2 weeks on gun training, maybe it's a week of gun training because they're spending 3 more days on de-escalation, a couple more days on how to accurately use a taser and pepper spray and your baton and things like that, rather than the gun, so that the gun then becomes the last option. But when you're teaching so much that the gun is the first or second option, because as a police officer, you're allowed to escalate up to 1 degree more than what is being presented at you. For example, if I'm coming at you with my fist, you're able to use a baton or pepper spray. If I'm coming at you with a knife, you're able to use a taser or gun. You see what I'm saying? If I'm coming at you with a gun, you're also able to use a gun. So a gun can be used by the police as a means to match the force that is being presented at them. But the problem is that they're using guns at the base level. Oh, you're coming at me with your fist? Gun. You're coming at me with a knife? Gun.
And then because of qualified immunity, if they say, well, I didn't feel safe. If I didn't, well, if they didn't feel it,
because
you go.
The wording is you had to have felt in fear of your life. So if that phrase is used at any point in time during the report, it is much easier to throw out that case in court. And that's what a lot of cops have been using. So then, and rather than using that, and rather than having the qualified immunity, if more time is spent for de-escalation, more time is spent on how to deal with mental health crises and things like that, then police begin to work for the community and not against it.
Yeah, but then there was that case where the one girl was attacking another girl with a knife and the police officer shot him, and like everyone thought that was excessive force.
So that case particularly was actually a very complicated one. The reason why is because the girl with the knife called the police. The reason why she called the police was because those other girls that she was about to stab with that knife were threatening to fight her and beat her up.
She was a teenage girl being threatened by a group of women, and she called the police and they came and killed her.
Right. So what happened? Yes. So that is the full case of it all, right? What happens is when you see the body cam video, cop gets out the car and within 30 seconds, a shot is fired. The reason why a shot is fired, because all he saw was a knife coming in. That's it. Right. And so then that became a very complicated case for a lot of people, because they're like, well, was she going to cause bodily harm to another person? Is she now the aggressor? You know, things like that. The issue then becomes what else could have been done rather than using a gun in that moment. Could there have been something else within that 30 seconds that could have been done? And that is the parameters of that case. And the thing about it is a lot of cases aren't black and white. But that's not for us to handle. It's for the cops the people that we put in charge of discerning between black and white and what is gray to figure out. And if they don't know that, and if they can't accurately figure that out on a consistent basis, then there is a problem with the system of it all.
When black people are afraid to call the police because there's a very high likelihood that they will be shot, that's a reality. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you think if I were a white person putting a knife to Jocelyn, that I wouldn't have gotten shot?
I don't know, but I do know that you can just go to YouTube right now and see umpteen videos of white folks fighting, white folks throwing stuff at police, white folks throwing punches at police and not getting shot and walking away. And instances of white youth going buck wild.
Yeah.
And just instances of like that shit that happened at the Capitol. Like, come on. Like, right. No, there's the likelihood of black people being escalated to being killed by police is way higher than with white people. Yeah, it is.
Because here's the thing, white people do get shot by the police. It does happen.
It happens.
But there are also more white people in America than there are black people. However, percentage-wise, the percentage of black people who get shot is significantly higher than the percentage of white people who get shot. And if policing was a clean and equal slate for everyone, the percentage would be equal. There would be an instance where if you were holding a knife to Jocelyn, you would get shot. But then there would also be an instance where you wouldn't, and vice versa. But the problem is there are more instances where they go, whoa, please don't put a knife to Jocelyn for white people than there are for black people.
So can police also kill someone or use a gun when they're in fear of someone else's life? They can use the gun if they're fear of their life, but if they see you about to harm another person's life, can they use a gun on you?
Of course.
If they say I fear, they can.
Right. Policing, their job is to protect life and protect the community. I mean, look at mass. I mean, there are a lot of mass shooters who do get brought in alive, but the thing about it is when you're looking at mass shootings, there are other people's lives in danger. It may not be the police in general's lives in danger. Their goal is to de-escalate that conflict. Is to make sure that people don't more people don't get killed. So yeah, if someone else's life is in danger, a cop can use force, but the force shouldn't always be the first option. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. I do think that cops should be able to use force when force is necessary. I don't always think that force is necessary.
And then we have to educate them and come up with other programs to teach them how to do it. The only thing, and I'll go back to it, and what you said at the beginning, Drexton, is that, people did have a problem with the term defund the police. And it was a phrase that needs to be explained to people, because the actual definition of what it means is not actually what it's meant to mean. And my only point is that it's a little confusing. And when you're dealing with middle America, who most of them can't even read, they're not going to take the time to understand it. That was my only point. Right. And that's sort of what you said.
They'll go as far as look up the definition of the fun, and then that's it.
Right.
Well, I just kind of feel like if there's a term
that, they can't even do that because they can't even read half of America.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is also why is it so important to get verbiage right with everyone? I mean, look at the Black Panthers, right? For a while, their slogan was all the power to all the people. However, rather than thinking of that, they were like, Black people, Black power, boom, kill them all. And they killed most of the leaders of the Black Panthers.
And that's basically what they did.
Right.
And meanwhile, we wouldn't even have breakfast programs if it wasn't for the Black Panthers. Your kid wouldn't even be getting a ham and cheese for breakfast, a ham, egg, and cheese if it wasn't for the Black Panthers.
Right.
But all you get is the demonization. And even 30, 40 years on, Beyonce wears a braid at the Super Bowl, she's demonized with that. Meanwhile, these people are about breakfast programs and power to all the people. But, verbiage, sure.
Right.
And verbiage.
Catchy phrases.
Right. And verbiage should not be as important when it comes to big issues. If it is a big enough issue that you care about, like if people care about enough to rally against it, like critical race theory, right? Then they should also understand what it is that they're rallying against.
Thank you.
And it shouldn't necessarily be on the people proposing an issue to be the only people in a conversation that know anything about the issue that they're proposing.
And also, we just see a thing in America where terms are invented through Black culture to defend Black people, and it's right away demonized. So when I sit there and say that there's a lot of racist white people that are never going to be on board, that's just pretty much keeping in line with history. Mm-hmm. Like people demonize Martin Luther King. We look at him at MLK and celebrate, but they demonized him then. They demonize every Black person that comes up with any kind of slogan that's to support the lives of Black people. So it doesn't surprise me at all that people will not take the 30 seconds to Google defund the police and see what it actually really is. It doesn't shock me at all.
Well, not other than understanding what it actually means, I feel like there'll be some level of distrust that your explanation or like the explanation is what is really meaning there's going to be cognitive dissonance in a rational person's mind. Like, all right, if the word is defund and this is what you're explaining to me, can I really trust that this is what you are really saying about it because of such a discrepancy in what the slogan is and what the explanation is?
Yeah, we're in a world of social media and quick flash bites and stuff like that. And people look at QAnon. People, it's like who knows? People see things. They don't.
Wasn't that a guy from New Jersey?
But people don't research. It's all like visual. It's all snap, quick. The way the society works now, it's like. People don't, again, I'll get back to it. We
have you talked to a QAnon
Trump
supporter? Their ideology is insane. Like QAnon believes that Democrats are like keeping children in these secret dungeons in order to like siphon their blood to make themselves stronger in order to like win elections and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And if you talk to a QAnon supporter, they have crazy facts and everything like this to back up this claim. But then when you go defund the police, and then they go, but the word defund, that's a really
so funny.
Yes, I think you're right. People are batshit crazy, and I think that I think a lot of people's knee-jerk negative reaction to defund the police is pretty much how you view the police and how you view Black people. I really do. People view the police. If you view the police and you see them, they're always there to protect you, then yeah, you're gonna have, and you have that experience and you have that belief, yeah, you're gonna be suspicious of defund the police. Right. But if that's not your experience, and maybe you're a free-thinking, intelligent person to be able to take the 2 seconds for the computer that you have in your pocket to Google it and learn what it is, that, you know, it is what it is. How can I help you?
But I love this debate. I really do, because I'm from the South. I'm from like Georgia, not Atlanta, Georgia. And the thing about it, right, like Swanee, like out there. And so the thing about it is I think that there's a difference between ignorance and like bigotry. I think that like ignorance for me is I don't know a thing. And that is a conversation I can have. Like where they're like, look, but the wording, or like, let's talk about it more. Like, let's get in depth. Let's explain it. That's a conversation I can have. The conversations that are hard are when people know the right issue. Like they know ignorance about it, and then they choose to be like, I'm against that. Because at that point, there's really no arguing there. You know, it's because then you know exactly where I'm coming from and you oppose it. You know what I mean? And for any movement to be successful, there are going to be people who are against that movement. Like Black people, you know, the best part about the protests this year, and also the most annoying part about the protests this year, was that there were more white people there than I've ever seen at a protest in my entire life. Right? Like I felt like I got to take a back seat and let them do the work. You know, I got free margaritas. Like I was like, you. Thank you so much. I felt like I got to take a day off of protesting for white people to do it for me. And that never happened. The thing about it is when other groups come together like that, change usually happens on a more efficient scale. It's much harder when it's just Black people going, we need this change. And people go, that sounds like a you problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like women's rights. The men had to get on board with women's rights.
Exactly.
To really get it through.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, so we're going to lighten up the load here a little bit because that was intense. And we're going to move on to comedy turn-on. Drexton, we feel like when a guy comes off stage, he has women swarming him when female comedians come off stage.
Drexton does. That's
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, we just don't have we don't have the guys interested in us. Maybe comedy's not a turn-on for men. Is that true?
No, I first of all, if someone's funny, genuinely, I'm more attracted to them than anything else. There's several people where I've been like, oh my God, she's hilarious just as a person, and I've wanted to hang out with her more often. I would say some guys are definitely intimidated by not just funny women, but women with like confidence in their own. Like I think we forget as comedians that so many people have stage fright and are afraid of public speaking. So you're already doing something that most people can't do. So when a guy sees that and they're like, "Whoa, this is intimidating to me," they probably check out. But also, you know, men are resilient people. I think if a guy wants to hit on someone, he'll hit on someone. I've been on a date with someone and I've seen a man come up to us during the date and pull her aside and be like, "Are you with this guy? Because if not, I want to buy you a drink." So like
wow.
Yes, men are. We're the worst creatures. We're terrible people. But you know, I don't think it's just a guy thing. But I will say,
it's a gender thing. It's definitely a gender thing. Like, you know, to be a comedian, it exhibits a certain level of intelligence. You know what I mean? So women look up to an intelligent man, and it can make them feel more sexy, more feminine, like more taken care of. I'm with a smart guy. He's smart. He's funny. He's a boss. A lot of men don't want to deal with a woman they know is smarter than them, who has bigger balls than them.
Or funnier than them, because men want to be the funny ones.
Oh yeah, that's a dick shrinker. A lot of men don't want to deal with a woman that is. It is. It's a dick shrinker. They don't want to deal with a woman that is funnier than them. A lot of times, they're funny, smarter. That comedy bone is a level of intelligence. It's a level of brass balls. A lot of men just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that sucks for men, because if a lot more men were more confident in themselves, then this would be a non-issue and a non-conversation.
I agree.
So my guy friend comedian explained it to me that it's not that men aren't interested in going up to a female comedian, but that male comedians convert the attention to actual ass or a date or whatever. So meaning when girls come and like, oh, you were so funny, they'll be like, oh, thank you. So what you doing later? Whereas when males come up to me and say, you're so funny, I'm like, okay, thank you. End of story. Like, that's it. So do you convert, Drex? Because I finally had a hot guy come up to me after a show a few weeks ago.
Finally?
And I was like, I'm going to convert this motherfucker. Yeah, finally. I was like, I'm going to convert this motherfucker. And so I chatted, I flirted, and then he asked me out. So I was like, oh, maybe I need to convert.
Yeah,
What do
you need
do?
to chat and
Convert?
flirt. You need to do all the chat and the flirt, whereas dudes just come off the stage. Do you know what I mean? Like you needed to do that. You needed to make him feel better.
Or women
You needed to make him feel better
for you.
Wait, no, we still have to do the work. Okay?
Oh yeah.
No, it's not like we're not doing the work.
Okay.
We're not doing the work. The conversion is the work. A lot of people like I know if I want to hook up with someone, then yeah, I'll be like, oh, what are you guys up to tonight? Are you visiting? Da, 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 and I'll have the conversation and I'll stick around. Well, a lot of times we kill a set. We murder. And then we're like, you know what? I'm going to stick around at this show because I know that people are going to come up to me at the end. I just want to see what's out there. Right? You know, but like also everything is perfect. Like a lot of ladies have like very specific requirements. They want someone who's tall. They want someone who's smart. They want someone who's funny. All right. When I stand on that stage, I'm 7'10" now. So I'm the tallest man in this room. And here I am being funny and smart, and then sometimes you wait around, and then they're like, "Oh my god, you were so funny!" Like, oh,
But that was the audition right there on the stage,
right? Because
then they got to come off and then flirt and all.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that we have over a regular guy walking up to you at the bar. When you get off stage, they felt like they got to know you for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So this feels like second date territory now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even though you don't know anything, you just know these jokes that I've done 100 times. Like this is second date territory now. You already feel comfortable because you're like, oh, you didn't like make a fool of yourself or like turn me off in any way when you were on stage. I've seen guys get on stage and say the B word and the C word, and you can feel the audience pulling away, and then girls would just run right past them at the end of the show, even though they're waiting around. You know what I mean? Because they turn them off on stage. I think there's I think if you give off like an amicable energy as a guy, like if you're amicable and then you're smart and then you have fun and you feel like a fun-loving guy, they're like, oh my god, I want to have fun and he seems like fun. I'm going to talk to him after the show. And even if it never goes anywhere, that's exactly what happens.
Have you ever been picked up after a set, Holly?
Oh my god, by my husband.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh no way.
Yeah. But he was the only guy. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was on the phone with him. I told you I was on the phone with him. He had actually along like 100 years ago, he had booked the show. He had run the show at Stand Up New York. I was on the phone with him. This is before everybody had a cell phone. This is 150 years ago. I was on the phone with him a million times, and we just got into I liked talking to him. And then when I showed up at the club, I just saw this cute guy, and I was up on him just on looks, and we were up on each other. And then all of a sudden, I didn't recognize his voice on the phone. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna go find this guy and I'm gonna come back and talk to you." And he was like, "That is me." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And we he told us whoever the ride, he was like, "You got to find another ride." And he drove me home, and we talked till the sun was up. And I told everybody next day I was getting married. And I told the next day I was getting married next summer. And the next summer I got married.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a hard time starting a relationship with someone I met at a show.
Why?
They don't know me. They know this version of me.
Okay.
So they like this version of me that I am on stage. And so they expect the relationship
100%.
or our hangouts to always be that. And so then it feels really hard to be off.
Your hangout should be a type 5.
Type 5, right? Yeah, it feels like you're
Well,
always
something
on.
should be tight.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes.
At least 5.
Yeah.
At least if you're
That's a new meeting to tell you 5. Go ahead.
Rex is like at most 5. Got the
If
red
you're
light.
going
He's
less
off.
than 5 minutes. Hey, I shouldn't be able to watch a late night set and finish it by the time we're done. Okay, I should be at the end of the episode by least. But no, it's it's really hard because you feel like you have to be on, and that's the problem. So I always like meeting people outside of shows, getting to know them, and then after a while they come to my shows, and then I'm like, all right.
I had this guy ask me out after a show, and he was besotted from date 1 because, like Drex said, this is his second date. He really got to know me.
Besotted. I love that.
I said besotted.
You said besotted.
And he was like, oh my God, I said besotted. And he was like, oh my God, you're such a gem. How could any guy let you go? I was like, oh, this guy just has stars in his eyes. He's only seeing my stage persona. Because I talked to him in real life for 5 minutes, and he was like, oh my God, you're a gem, da da da. So I hear.
Is this when you had the glasses on? Is this when you had the glasses on?
No, that's another guy. That's another guy who's that's the most recent
hot
one.
Commodity, Jocelyn.
Let me tell you something. When you wear glasses,
I know. That's why when she said that hot guy came
no,
up
let me
to
tell you
I'm
something about glasses. Like you attract different men when you wear glasses.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing. There's something about the girl in the
I got
glasses.
an engineer. What is it about girls with glasses then?
They wanted to flower them.
I think they're waiting for the Puma to come out. They're waiting for the Puma to come out underneath those glasses.
No, they seem like the nerdy tight girl that they want to just let her free. It's a challenge.
Right. Like, oh, she's nerdy and but she's fun. Oh, yeah.
They won't let the freak out. They won't let the freak out. Okay.
I've only gotten picked. I was once at a bar show and I was actually trying to bark people in, and this one guy was trying to pick me up. And that's the only time I ever had that. And I said to him, I'm like, I'm old enough to be your mother. I'm like, you can't handle me. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, how old are you? And he told me his age. I'm like, I'm old enough to be your mother.
Oh, girl, that young man, you might blow your back out. You gotta be careful.
Oh.
I have a crazy story from when I got picked
I'm
up.
wearing a brace.
That's
Crazy
very
story.
flattering though, Felicia.
That is flattering.
Go ahead. So here's what happened. I was at a show in Williamsburg, and I'm like making eye contact with this girl back and forth, and like, I'm like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, yada yada yada. I go home. I had to run to another spot. So she hits me up on Instagram like 2 days later and was like, hey, you were at that Williamsburg show. We were making eye contact. Do you want to go on a date? I was like, sure, let's go on a date.
Wow.
I was like, are you coming back? Are you in Williamsburg? Let's hang in Williamsburg. And she goes, oh, I live in Jersey City. Do you want to come to Jersey City? I was like, I don't really want to, but you know what? Fine. Let's go to Jersey City. Go to Jersey City, right? And she takes me to this nice bar. We're getting a whole bunch of drinks, like a lot of drinks, like too many drinks, right? And every third thing she said was crazy. She was like, I love the sky. It's such a beautiful weather today. I think I was abducted by aliens. You're like, wait, stop there. She's like, oh, I don't remember. I felt weird when I woke up. I felt like it was aliens. I was like, okay, you're weird. And then halfway through all these drinks, she goes, I haven't really been honest on this date. I'm married. And I was like, oh, are you guys in an open marriage? Is it not going well? She goes, no, it's going well. I just feel like he's happier than I am. So I just wanted to see what was out there. But I hope I didn't ruin this date. Right. And I'm drunk at this point because we've had so many drinks. I'm like, no, you didn't ruin it. Things happen. People are people, whatever. And then she's like, hey, you get this round of drinks and I'll get dinner. Right. So I pay like an exorbitant amount of money for drinks, like way too much for a first date. And then she's like, all right, let's go get dinner. She takes me to Two Boots Pizza.
Stop it.
Nope.
Stop
Bought
it.
2 slices of pizza, one for me,
Stop
one for her.
it.
$8.50. It was like, we're even.
No,
I was like, what? And then she goes, I'm so serious. And she goes, I'm kidding. Let's go get drinks again. Let's go grab some more drinks. I'm like, I'm already drunk at this point. I'm like, I'm good on drinks. She's like, no, I want to take you to this bar. It's going to be a good time. So we go to this bar, and she's ordering all these shots. She's doing the same thing she was doing at the other bar. And now she's really drunk. And she goes, I don't think that you appreciate what a catch I am. Okay.
You're married. You're a cheap.
Yes. She goes, I left my husband to be on this date. Okay. Like you know how many men in these streets would love to be on a date with me right now, and you're on this date with me. Okay. And I was just like, I think I'm gonna go. She goes, no, I'm gonna go. And then she grabs an Uber and walks out of the bar. And I'm like, you know what? Let me walk into that
At
Uber.
least
So
you
we
did
left the
check.
bar. Yes, we left the bar without paying the check. I walk into her Uber, and then I walked to a PATH train, and I went home because it's New Jersey. They'll never remember this. And then a week later, she texts me on Instagram, and she's like, hey, I'm really sorry. I was really drunk on that date. It's obviously not going to work out because I'm married, but like, I'm really sorry for putting you through all this. But weird and crazy question. Did we pay the bill at that last bar? And by we, she puts in parentheses, I mean you. She goes, did you pay the bill? Because I'm going with my friends and I don't want it to be awkward with the bartender. And I just never responded back to her.
Oh my God.
You should
What
just
a
wrote a
fucking
bitch. You just
bitch.
wrote a bitch in all caps and just left it. Like, bitch.
So that's the craziest.
Okay,
date
Drexton, I have a couple questions.
Go for it.
Okay. After you found out she was married, why did you stay? You know that's how folks get shot, right?
That's how folks get shot.
That's
She
how
said-
folks get shot.
Right. She said it was a white guy. So
So you thought maybe he didn't have a good shot? Have you been to a hunting range? It's full of white men.
in New Jersey,
Have you been hunting lately?
No. So
There's
the
mad
reason-
white men with perfect shots.
That's
right. No,
hilarious.
the reason why I stuck around is because I had already gone to New Jersey. Okay, I'm gonna get a kiss or something at the end of this day. There's no reason for me to be in New Jersey.
Also, you know why the comedian in you is too curious? Because you're a comedian.
I'm always
See
here
how
for
does they
good
end?
story.
A comedian will go to hell just to see who's there. Like, yeah.
Did you add it to
you're
your
curious.
routine? Did you add it to
I
your
have never added this to my routine at all.
You
I-
have to.
Yeah.
You should. You should.
I gotta find this
Especially the
one.
whole like, I wasn't afraid of getting shot now because her husband is a white guy.
Like they don't know how to shoot.
You don't know
guns,
if he likes this. That's a new thing in porn recently. Is that the guys are like, "Oh, I'm really into this." So like, you don't know, if that's like his kink. You never know.
Oh, you thought maybe he was a
Yeah,
couple
I
or
did
something?
hear from a couple. Yeah.
I've been propositioned a lot. Yes, so I didn't know.
Wow.
It's really funny you would say that because I don't know what it is with a black woman as a cuck. I don't know but I used to get propositioned a lot in college by
Wow.
white couples for me to be with them.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Used to
Okay, well, we
happen.
have to wrap up. Holly, did you have a couple more questions for him? Did you answer all your questions you had about the incident?
You're not gonna do this again, right?
I'm never going to New Jersey again for under $50. Like
Because after this hour, I feel like your older cousin / auntie, and I just don't want this to happen again.
I need a solid reason to go to New Jersey. I'll never go on a date in New Jersey ever again.
She
Okay.
must have been really hot, huh? For you to go to New Jersey for
Sorry
a
for
date.
all you New Jersey people.
No, I'm making her come.
watching
I'm making her come to Manhattan. If she's hot and she lives in Jersey, she's coming to Manhattan.
Make her ass come to Best Eye. She'll be like,
Exactly.
this. Drexton just
Was she
lost
super
the whole
hot, this
state.
girl?
I don't need Bruce Springsteen state. I don't need it. Okay, I'm born to run away from there. All right. So
I was raised in Jersey, so
I was raised in
you're raised in
Jersey.
Jersey. What part of Jersey?
I was raised in South Jersey.
Like Cape May?
Yes.
I love Cape May.
Oh,
I
let's
love
go
the
to
beach
weekend.
down there.
Oh, great.
And every bar that I went to in Cape May found a way to play wagon wheel. Every single bar that I went to
That
was
is
like,
true.
you know what y'all want to
That
hear.
is true. That
Yep.
is true. Wagon wheel is very serious.
Serious.
Cape May.
So
But
you-
Felicia is from North Jersey.
I'll be
right?
there next weekend.
Really? Oh, you gotta go.
Cape
Oh,
May
it's
or
such a good
North
time.
Jersey?
What part of North Jersey?
Cape May.
Really?
I was right over the George Washington Bridge, Englewood Cliffs.
Oh, nice. I was over in my dentist is in Hackensack.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
see,
so you go for your teeth, right?
Yeah, of course.
Just not for a
Drexton-
date.
yeah, Drexton, I do feel that New Jersey does produce fine women.
If you two are any indication, it 100% does. Okay. Well, I go on a date in New Jersey.
This was like a very vivacious, fun talk. Loved all of it as always. This was Broadish. I'm Felicia
Drex,
Madison.
you were the perfect guest for this one. You know, like you were funny, you were smart, and your dad was a cop, so you could come in very educated on the Defund the Police topic. You were the perfect guest for this episode.
I think you get a lot of dates after this.
Who knows? I'm single.
I especially love the part where he explained everything I just said. but he just put a spin on it, and you guys were like, yeah.
Now, is it because he's a man? Were we listening to him because he's a man?
I don't know.
I
Maybe
am
we just
part
needed
of the problem.
Maybe we just needed a penis here. Maybe we needed a penis to just say the same thing Hollie Harper said. But hey, thank you, Drexton.
Hey,
Well,
I would love to do this some other time. Let me know. I would
He
love to come back.
did the parenting thing. He did he justified what I said and justified what you said, and then he explained it all.
I am very. I went to
True,
school
because
for
he did
psychology.
de-escalate things by saying, yeah, and you de-escalated by saying, I agree that the choice of the word was not great, right? So he
I don't
acknowledged
agree
your
with
point,
that. I think
Felicia.
I don't agree with that. But yeah, I don't agree with that. But no, but I like.
Hence why he did it better.
And the dig part, because that shit is internalized.
Yeah.
Women see a dick, they're like, what did he say?
I don't see a dick. Do you see a dick?
What did he say?
I
What did he say?
see Dr. Fauci back there, but I don't.
Okay, guys. This is Broadish. I'm Felicia Madison.
I'm Hollie Harper.
I'm Jocelyn Chia.
The enthusiasm, Jocelyn, is amazing. I'm Jocelyn Chia. And thank you,
Jocelyn
Drexton
Chia.
Clemons, for joining us. You were a great addition to Broadish.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me.